people are just producing products. They don't have the first clue biochemically how this is actually working, right? And they're marketing creatine gummies. Like, dude, you just ordering creatine gummies because your latest influencer told you.
And they did a study on those creatine gummies too, and it was like 8 out of 10 of the top brands came out with less than a gram of creatine in them. Some of them had no creatine in them. We deserve vitality in every stage of life. And that's supplements that are actually making a difference and helping you feel that way, whether you're 28, 40, 50, 60, 70. When supplements can bring that value and people actually notice when they are on them versus when they are off them. And that's one thing that we keep hearing from a lot of our experiences is, man, as soon as I come off these things, I'd notice that I'm not recovering as well. I'm not as sharp cognitively. I'm starting to get sick again. We just had another guy talking about our Viraxel product, which is a EGCG extract, the Tavigo, which in a capsule you have to take massive doses of. And a lot of times, sometimes people get GI distress. We're able to get the same effect out of a much smaller dose. And
what's going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. I am your host, as always, Ben Brown, owner and head coach here at Body Systems. And today we've got an incredible conversation lined up with someone who's carrying forward a legacy in performance, in supplementation, and in health optimization. I am privileged to have the opportunity to chat with Christian LaValle. He's a former Division I linebacker turned researcher, coach, and now he's the president of Metabolic Elite. With a master's degree in kinesiology and published research in body composition and energy balance, Christian bridges the worlds of biomechanics and biochemistry, bridging cutting-edge science into practical strategies for athletes, for coaches, and high performers like us. Following in the footsteps of his father, integrative health pioneer James LaValle, who's been on the show before, Christian is at the forefront of supplement innovation with his company, Metabolic Elite's breakthrough LipoTab technology, which delivers nutrients more effectively than ever before in the supplement industry. And his mission is really simple, guys. It's to help people move beyond the basics and truly optimize performance, recovery, and long-term health. Now, in this episode, we dive into Christian's journey from playing the field to the lab, the truth about body composition testing, how targeted supplementation fits into the foundation of smart nutrition and training, and why metabolic health is the real game changer for energy and for focus and for longevity. This was a great and fascinating conversation that blends science with real-world application. And I'm confident that you guys are going to walk away with tools to take your health and performance to the next level. So please welcome to the show, Christian LaValle. Welcome to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. What's good, brother?
nothing much. Really appreciate you having me on. I know there's a long history here with my dad, and then we got connected not too long ago, and was really fortunate that you invited me on the show. So happy to be here, excited for the topics we're going to touch on.
I'm equally excited and happy to have the opportunity to chat with you. I mean, like you mentioned, I've been a big fan of your father's and consider him a mentor in some ways over, probably the past 15 years, just with his relationship with Charles Poliquin and the supplements, and in basically the tutelage of Charles Poliquin, I learned so much about supplementation. And a lot of that really was as a direct result of your father's influence and his expertise and brilliance. And I've had him on the podcast before. And so I'm looking forward to kind of diving into your guys' Metabolic Elite products. But I guess it might be logical to kind of talk about how you came up into the space. It's not uncommon in my experience for people as an example, whose fathers are doing this stuff to run in the complete opposite direction, but you being an athlete, I mean, what's your journey looked like?
Yeah. So, I'm patient zero, like on everything. So I was like the original experiment, you should say. That sounds bad, but like, it was all fun. It was all fun. I loved every second of it, but growing up, like performance health was my life. My mom's a dietitian, my dad's clinical pharmacist, integrative medicine, I would say
sure.
pioneer in the country, and grew up in clinics and grew up around supplements and people eating the right way. And none of it was ever forced. Because I was always an athlete, so I always wanted to perform well. Always was performed at a high level through even as young as middle school to high school, and then eventually playing college sports. So precision and performance health was everything for me. And as I got to high school and was playing football at a really good program and got the opportunity to play Division I college football, I saw how important it was to be implementing all these things to perform at my best and feel well. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I was still a kid and I still pushed back on my parents on things. So that part was still there, but it was all healthy.
Did you,
moving
I'm sorry to
forward.
interrupt. Did you, like, at what point did you
Yeah,
really
no.
notice a difference around how you were fueling yourself and relative to training, relative to perform, to competition? Like, when did that click for you?
I think it was in college, really, mainly because high school I always thought like, oh, it's normal, this is all normal. And then you bring all these kids in from different backgrounds and, experiences in life and all these things. And I've realized at the level that I was really doing things at when I got to college and was like, oh, I'm already taking my, the daily pack of supplements that they're giving us. I'm already eating the clean food, getting the olive oil, salting my foods, doing all of these things where a lot of the times in college athletics or playing Division I football at Utah State and Texas Tech. And then I eventually transitioned to the coaching staff side of things as a graduate assistant on strength conditioning because I had a neck injury that took me out of football. So I was fortunate enough to see both sides, right? So you're trying to break these a lot of times bad lifetime habits that these kids are bringing in there. And I think that's when I really realized I was like, okay, the things that I was doing or am doing already has set me up for success. Obviously, I think it's a small sliver of what the end outcome is, especially with football, because injuries happen. There's all these things, these factors that you can't control that happen. But I knew I was at least setting myself up for success with how I was recovering, how I was feeling. I was doing the blood work, doing all the things through my college
Yeah, 100%.
career.
And it's such a, I mean, it's not easy to differentiate. It's not hard to differentiate yourself among that setting, to say nothing of even professional sports. Like, as much as people wouldn't believe, a lot of what people are consuming and athletes are consuming is absolute garbage. And they're just simply getting by on genetics, which you and I both know goes quite a long way
Yep.
depending on the sport. Depending on the sport. So
Yep.
it's cool that you had that introduction early on. So you played college ball at Texas Tech, is that right? And then you went
Yes, sir.
and you got
Yep.
master's degree and you were studying, what did you say here? Body composition and energy balance was that part of your thesis?
After I got done playing, I transitioned to a strength conditioning internship, and then through there I became a graduate assistant on the Olympic staff. And I was doing the graduate assistant while I was getting my master's in kinesiology with a concentration in human performance. And I also was involved in a research lab under Dr. Grant Tinsley as a research assistant in the energy balance and body composition lab at Texas Tech. So I got published in a few papers. I wrote a manuscript on DEXA versus bioelectrical impedance. And, Dr. Tinsley was an amazing mentor of mine, and he's really leading the charge with a lot of the big names on the body composition research out of the lab that I was working out of. So really, really fortunate to get that background on, moving into the professional space, which I found out I was doing 6 months from graduation. So when I was like, I need you to run the company. And so I started this whole process kind of like all at the same time in my master's program, and kind of helped me adjust my focus because going through college, I knew I wanted to be involved in research. I knew I wanted to be involved in human performance. I knew I loved strength conditioning. So at the time I knew, and I love supplements. My entire life, I've loved supplements. I always say like my secret obsession is bodybuilding and supplements and knowing what's out there and all those things. So I just was waiting for the opportunity to bring all that knowledge and experience together. And that was Metabolic Elite,
Yeah,
which
for
we'll get
sure. Now
into
you're
here in a
getting
little
trial
bit.
by fire, learning how to be a business owner and leader in that respect, which I'm sure has been a great education process for you. Before we get into that stuff, just really quick, because you mentioned the DEXA and bioelectrical impedance, what's the 1 to 2 takeaways from the research that you did around the relevance and sort of best practices or like gold standard with those two?
Yeah, well, everybody knows DEXA is the gold standard, but if you're in the research, it's
Right.
MRI and there's, deuterium diluted water for total body volume and all that stuff. So there's that, but
Exactly.
that's not really
General
accessible. That's all
population.
I would
Yep.
say research only. Yeah. Gen Pop, if you have access to a DEXA, and I know there's those mobile DEXA things that are popping
For
up and they're
sure.
becoming a lot more accessible. I think they're obviously DEXA is great, and that's what I would go with all the time. But if you have a bioelectrical impedance available in your gym or your nutrition shop or whatever, they're still great. But one thing that really influences bioelectrical impedance data
Totally.
is your standardization protocol. You have to have a really good standardization protocol. Make sure you're doing it in the morning. Make sure you're drinking the right amount of water. Make sure you're not drinking water after a certain time the night before. No
Yep.
caffeine. Make sure you haven't trained. There's a lot of things that influence the bioelectrical impedance data. And if you are doing it, you want to try and do it around the same time with the same protocol so that the data is accurate over time and valid over time. Because if you do it in the morning one day and you do it in the evening another day, when you've had 4 cups of coffee, water, the data is going to vary quite a bit. So I think the main takeaway is just look online. There's a ton of information on standardization protocols for BIA. And if you are doing that, try to do something along those lines as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if the more dialed in you can get that, the better results that you're going to have
Yeah.
on where you actually are today. So yeah, that's my main takeaway.
It's easy.
Dex is easy.
And
You lay on the thing, you get
honestly, dude,
scanned.
I
And
think that just
yeah,
the ease of use is the most important thing, the user experience. And so for those listening, it's like, yeah, I mean, you can go in to see someone and dude, I've done thousands of caliper, assessments over the years. And then
yep,
I was doing corporate wellness and we had an in body and I did hundreds and hundreds of in body and we saw all of the variability around people. They walk in and they're sweating. I'm like, did you just train? Like, yeah, I trained. Big deal. I'm like, okay, well, it kind of is a big deal. Or, that just all the, because it's electrical conductivity based. And so that is contingent
yep.
on fluid and a cellular, hydration and all of that kind of stuff. So, a point being is like it is just easy to do a DEXA scan. And so if we can minimize the variability, improve the standardization, and keep it consistent, then that's the most important thing. And it's like you may have one trial that's a bit skewed or it might not be what you'd expect. It's like no big deal. Keep doing what you're doing and go do it again in a week or two and see if it doesn't, if the norm doesn't change, the trend lines.
There's a lot of BIA's been known to underestimates segmental skeletal muscle mass in arms, legs, and there's a lot of data on overestimation, underestimation of the various prediction equations. And because that's what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of these algorithms or a lot of these formulas are based
Right.
off prediction equations with various compartment, the 5 compartment model of body composition analysis. So I mean there's some really good BIA technology coming out. Like Sika is really good. I know the new M bodies are getting better, and the technology is just going to keep evolving and keep getting better and better and better to where it's going to be pretty dang close. But like you said, ease of use. If you can get a DEXA, I know the cost is coming down. To me, if you can do a DEXA,
I'm
I
moving,
would I
frankly,
would
I'm moving more
100%
and
go
more to
for it.
just recommending out,
Yeah,
referring out to DEXA scans. I mean, we do circumference measurements, we do
yeah,
pictures, and we do daily weight typically. And so that's more than enough information for us to be able to determine if things are moving in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, who cares if you're 15% or 13% or 10%? Like if you know you're making progress, if you like the way that you look, that's all that really matters. The percentage, we are all like, no one, it just doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, fair.
unless you're competing or something, like if I look the same at 4% as I do at 8 and I'm stepping on stage, what
Yeah.
does that really percentage mean? And I think I
Yeah.
love the 3D body scanning because it's pretty good. We have one at our clinic and at my dad's clinic in Austin because you can do it at any type of the day. If you, as long as you have tight clothing on, You can do it at any time of the day. It's really easy to use. You step on the thing, you do the little 360, and it gives you your circumferences. And for general, like you said, for general population or people that are just looking to make, feel better and look better, as long as they see those circumferences coming down or that estimation on the body fat coming down, I think there is a little bit of variation in, like for me, heavily muscled individuals, a 3D body scan dramatically overestimates
Sure. I
at
can see
least the
that.
body fat percentage, just because of the circumference. Like it goes based off circumference. So if I have more muscle in my biceps and they're bigger, it's going to
Muscle
harder to
fat, yeah.
differentiate between what's fat and muscle in a 3D scan. So they see the circumferences coming down and all those things, they're happy and they're feeling good and they're noticing the change. They're more confident. I think there's a really good application for, like you said, taking circumferences and body weight and going from there, and then getting a DEXA when you
no,
can.
100%. I think that's good just to hear. And again, just perspective for people is like body fat percentage is not the end all be all. In fact, again, for just general population here, it doesn't really serve you well just to have that percentage number if you don't like the way that you look. We just need to see that we're making progress, and we have ways of being able to effectively track progress. And for most people, that ends up being like, listen, if you can do a DEXA scanner, we can just do circumference measurements, we can rely on pictures or all of the above, then that's great as well. So you obviously were, studying biochemistry, biomechanics in college. You have experience through strength and conditioning. You've kind of been indoctrinated into the nutrition and dietetics and supplement realm throughout your career now, and you've taken on this role of running this company. Tell us a little bit more about your company and kind of what your role entails.
One thing I want to talk about with the body fat percentage real quick before we move on to that is, a lot of times we have people that come in that are really lean, low body fat, and their biochemistry sucks and they're not healthy. Like to me, like you said, the body fat percentage thing is not it's not everything you need to be worrying about, because we see people with jacked up metabolism, jacked up blood work peeled at 10% all the time.
I would,
Like that's not, like that's a big caveat to the body fat percentage thing, is sometimes you're not
we know
actually
very
healthy when you're
clearly.
that
I
lean.
mean, it's this trade-off, right? It's this sort of, it's this curve whereby it's like there comes a certain point, like, if you're obese and you lose a significant amount of weight, you're invariably getting healthier. But then as you continue to lose, like, into the single digit body fat, for a lot of people, that's actually ends up being unhealthy.
And I would say it's more detrimental to females than males because of how much it jacks up hormones and all sorts of things. Like I've seen some female bodybuilders like not recover from their first show, or it take years to recover from the damage that getting that lean did to their biochemistry. Right. But there's a little rabbit hole there, but I'll transition into the company now. So I'm the president of Metabolic Elite. We are a innovative supplement company. I'd like to say we're beyond foundational. So we really are targeted in the nutrients and the solutions that we provide on the dietary supplement side of things. But we also do continuing education for performance coaches as well. We have a few courses on there already that we have done in the past, but we also are developing more continuing education as we speak. And, I was blessed to be asked to be put in this position, because the original idea was developed by my dad, Jim LaValle, and Mike Potenza, who is the director of high performance for the San Jose Sharks and was at the Golden State Warriors, and then was at the Sharks before that, president of the NHL Strength Coach Association. Really, really intertwined, and I like to say one of the best in the country, and has been doing it for a long time on the human performance side of things and the strength conditioning. They came up with this idea of Metabolic Elite about 6 years ago. It was like, Jim, it's time for you to do your own brand, because he's formulated for Metagenics and Numedica, all these companies, Thorne, and helps Lifetime, and does all these, has helped a lot of people in the space on formulating products and, driving initiatives to make really, really high quality products. And Mike was like, I'm tired of you doing it for other people. Like, we have an amazing team. Let's do it ourselves and come out with things that are innovative and are pushing the needle on performance, that are actually making, actually making a difference in people's health, whether you want to be the best dad you can be, or if you're a weekend warrior doing high rocks, or Ironmans or whatever you want, whatever your challenge is that you're doing, from mom, dad, sons to elite athletes to high performing CEOs or, entrepreneurs. We wanted to make products that were that next level beyond that foundational sort of line that you could say with fish oils, mag, they're all really important. They're all very, very important. But we wanted to come out with the next gen of products that are really, really specific, but also really, really effective. And we have on our team Cal Dietz for triphasic training, University of Minnesota, Jim Snyder, University of Wisconsin's been there for 25 years on the strength conditioning performance director side of things. Tim Karen is also on our board, who you'd probably know through the Poliquin connection. He was at USC Army. Now he's in the private sector, owns 4 gyms now, I believe. And then also, and these guys are all students of my dad's that have they've been a student and have learned from each other for the last 10 years of when my dad was doing stuff at Poliquin. It's funny, a lot of this stuff stems from those Poliquin days on the human performance side. And it's crazy how that web
runs
is
deep and
all over the
powerful,
country.
for sure.
100%. And we also have Kevin Neild, who's director of high performance for the Bruins. So we have this amazing board of advisors and staff on our team to move the needle in the sports performance side of things, human performance. But then we have my dad, who's with A4M and on the integrative side and on the lifestyle and, precision health side of things. So we want to be the brand that elite athletes can use and get a difference out of, but also people that are trying to make lifestyle changes. Like our berberine product is amazing for, glucose, supporting glucose and insulin regulation, which can be effective across the board of whoever you are. And going into a little bit of, that was the core team, was like, okay, we have this team. What do we want to do and what products? That was while I was still going through school and still playing. They were kind of chewing on making this ideation of what Metabolic Elite is going to be. And then when I was at Utah State, my roommate, so this is where the LipoTab technology comes into play. So my roommate was the grandson of the guy that invented our LipoTab technology.
Total coincidence?
And I was like, oh, what's your dad do?
It's wild.
Yeah, total coincidence. So I was like, what's your dad do? Oh, mine does this. What's yours do? Blah, blah. I was like, oh, we probably should have them talk, because we were, just being frank, me and my dad, we were liquid liposome haters because of the stability issues and, a lot of the stuff that the FDA has published on liquid liposomes being unstable over time and the heat that's required, all these things. So we weren't huge liquid liposome fans. And then that's how it started. And then we started chatting about, the technology that they've derived and their oral chewable tablet for liposomes and all this stuff. And then I got my dad on the phone with Kyler is his name. His dad was like, okay, we want to partner. You're the guy that we want to roll this new technology out with, because it originated on the pharma side for delivering smaller doses of oncology and also pain medication drugs. So using smaller doses to get more effectiveness out of the drug with less risk of side effect and less risk of toxicity. There's a whole story about why it kind of died down and went some legal stuff on the back end. Somebody tried to steal some.
Maybe you could
whatever.
just
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Describe liposomal technology, why it's relevant.
Yeah. So why ours is extremely relevant is the liposomal technology. We're able to wrap the active ingredient or raw material that we are trying to deliver in a multi-layered liposome and keep it stable to the date of expiration and making that particle really, really small. So under 100 nanometers, you get more effective absorption across the cell membrane. So we're able to keep our chewable tablet liposomes under 100 nanometers to the date of expiration. There's no degradation of the raw material in the manufacturing process because we don't use any heat. There's a lot of things that are innovative in our actual liposomal technology aside from liquid liposomes. And we have an amazing white paper on our website that goes into a lot of the detail because it can be kind of complicated for a general consumer. But what I like to say is we're just able to shrink those particles down really, really small and deliver these nutrients more efficiently into your body. And so that way your body's able to actually absorb and utilize these nutrients more efficiently.
Why is that important relative to the vast majority of products on the market?
There's some products that absorb really well in capsules, like magnesium. There's things that work really well in capsules that we're not going to touch. We're mainly focused on nutrients that don't absorb well in capsules. Things like curcumin, you're only getting a really small percentage of the overall dose that's actually on the bottle. Same thing with berberine, same thing with green tea extract. We're also doing a couple peptides because oral peptides get destroyed in the gut, like to where you're not really getting a ton of systemic benefit out of
Right.
or oral peptides because they're mainly localized to your stomach. So, we're just able to take things that don't absorb well in capsules and get them to be absorbed more efficiently to where you're actually able to reap the amazing benefits of those various
Yeah.
supplements that aren't
Yeah,
traditionally
no,
absorbed super well.
you guys sent me a whole bunch of product, which I really appreciate. I'm grateful for. I've been using it and really enjoying it. And like you said, this is beyond the foundational stuff around. Listen, we've got joint support. So you send me the BPC 157, the turmeric based product. I'm loving that stuff. And it's nice to be able to take a peptide without, especially for people that are averse to injections or don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet or whatever. Like, to be able, which I imagine in general from an oral technology is like those peptides are delicate and they're going to get destroyed by the stomach acid.
Yep.
And
No,
then
you're
you've got
100%
immune
right.
system support. You've got, let's see, cognitive function, right? What else? Yeah,
We got the
performance,
Enduro too
right?
for the aerobic system support. Yeah, so that's an amazing
Yeah,
product
and
we'll get into as well.
I can notice a big difference in those and utilizing that and the cognitive enhancer products. And so it really is this sort of second level tier of where you've got your foundational covered, but these are the things that we typically have conversations with clients around is gut health, joint health, energy, cognitive function, performance, sleep quality, immune support, which you really have got a nice array and
Yeah.
diversity of these things covered. And so how are you guys utilizing these with clients, patients, clinicians? Like, what's the target market?
This is one of our challenges as a company because we have so much wide experience is really narrowing down who we really want to go after. And I think that's one
Sure.
thing that we're still going through as a company because we have our high performers, but we also have practitioner accounts that are utilizing it in clinic. And then we have direct consumer people that are buying it and just implementing it themselves. So practitioner wise, a lot of practitioners are utilizing the peptides, the oral peptides that we have, just because we have like 50 or 60 practitioners out that are utilizing it. I would say 12 of those are orthopedic surgeons, and they're like, I cannot believe your BPC and KPV are working just as good as the injectable, and we just keep hearing that over and over and over again. And a lot of people, like you said, it's all due to the LipoTab technology. You're actually able to you chew them up and they get absorbed. They're not even touching a very, very small part of the raw material is actually even getting to your stomach because of how small the particles are and how easily they are absorbed, even
Mm-hmm.
from the second you start chewing them up. So a lot of practitioners are utilizing the peptides. We also have our recovery bundle, which is the BPC and the curcumin, which I would say is probably
I
one
can
of
see
our
that
most
for sure.
popular combos on the practitioner side of things, just because of the effect it has on supporting that inflammatory response and making sure it's a healthy response, right? You're not keeping that support around that whole system is really, really important and is a core thing that a lot of people deal with on a daily basis when we look at how metaflammation, which is just kind of that low grade underlying inflammation, really
Well,
affects
yeah, and especially
everything.
this audience. I mean, the audience that is me that listens to this podcast. I mean, oftentimes we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. We've been training a long time. We've got a myriad of joint issues from whether it's being athletic, younger, continuing to be a weekend warrior, just the maladies that come with aging and wanting to do our diligence. That is absolutely me. I've been eating this stuff like candy. And I can tell you, I mean, outside of dealing with a nagging low back injury, I mean, my knees, I've got torn meniscus in both knees. I've got tendonitis in one of my elbows that's flared. It's sort of like doing everything I can to kind of mitigate that inflammation that's going on. And I can tell very clearly it's helped. And I've got a few clients now that are utilizing it as well with positive experience. So it's great.
That's amazing to hear. And you are one of our main avatars that we go after, because that's and females, male and females that want to still be active, but they want to optimize their recovery processes to continue to do the things that they love to do for as long as possible. And that's where my thing that my dad always has stuck with me is like, we deserve vitality in every stage of life. Supplements that are actually making a difference and helping you feel that way, whether you're 28, 40, 50, 60, 70, like, to me, that is when supplements can bring that value and people actually notice when they are on them versus when they are off them. And that's one thing that we keep hearing from a lot of our experiences is, man, as soon as I come off these things, I notice that I'm not recovering as well. I'm not as sharp cognitively. I'm starting to get sick again. We just had another guy talking about our Viraxel product, which is a EGCG extract, the Tavigo, which in a capsule you have to take massive doses of. And a lot of times, sometimes people get GI distress. We're able to get the same effect out of, a much smaller dose. And had a guy the other day, my kids are like, this is typically a time I get sick from school every year. The only thing that I've changed is I'm using Metabolic Elite's Viraxel, which is really, really potent in supporting, antiviral properties. So, and there's also some body comp research on green tea extract and stuff, but we mainly are using it for supporting the antiviral stuff, which is really, really, really important in today's world with, everything that happened with COVID and all these, viruses that just continue to, come out or whatever, just trying to keep your system ready to go for whenever this new vector imposes it on your immune system. So that one is, I think, our most slept on, because we have a lot of practitioners that are using it in shingles cases that are having really, really great success. Obviously, I'm not a practitioner, so I'm just speaking on, what I've been told from our various practitioners that are using it. Shingles, people are using it really, really in these key times of when, you feel like you're getting sick, you start using it, gets knocked
that's
out
super
of you pretty
interesting,
quick.
because what I see a lot is I do see a lot of latent viruses and personally struggle. So I have Epstein-Barr, which is something that flares its head when stress is high, sleep is low, and usually the two go hand in hand. But I certainly have a lot of clients that deal with this stuff too. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to add that in and see how I fare there. But that's definitely one of those things. What I'll typically do is I'll typically just go in and get an IV under these times, but having a product that specifically targets sort of antiviral mechanism seems very logical and potentially something that could help me personally, just selfishly, help quite a lot with.
Like I said, it's probably one of our more underrated products, but it has a huge impact in times like this, or for people like yourself with those various, latent virus stuff, or, it really is impactful on the immune system. But, our hero products are that Enduro too.
Yeah, tell me a little bit
the
about those
Synapsin
and
the
what you're seeing with and how,
yeah.
like, what are best practices around that with general population?
Yeah, so the Synapsin is really unique because it originated, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with, the Synapsin, the nasal spray, the RG3 nasal spray that my dad created, and now it's able to be licensed out to a bunch of compounding pharmacies. But it's expensive. You have to keep it in your fridge, and it's really, really, that's where it started, is the Synapsin nasal spray. It just so happened to work perfectly in our chewable tablet. So we're able to take that same nasal spray for cognitive support, supporting microglial down regulation in the brain, supporting that neuroinflammatory response. And we originally were using it in spectrum disorder, ADHD. That's where the original research in the nasal spray was, for just kind of calming the brain down. And then from there, it went to Corvette racing, where, hey, as these guys' core body temperatures are going up, their cognitive function is going like this on the course or on the racetrack, and they were crashing their cars during Le Mans. We started doing protocols around their training and their sort of biochemistry and their supplementation and things, they started utilizing this RG3 Synapsin nasal spray, and they were able to keep their cognitive function balanced throughout the race. So there were no dips in cognitive function, and they measured all this, pre and post. There's a lot. I don't think any of it's available. I think it was all internal on their end, but it started there, and it was really, really profound in athletes for helping with staying sharp as you get tired. Really, really helped with TBI protocols and concussion protocols, getting people back quicker. It also helps with skill acquisition. That's another thing that we see a lot in our athletes, is just being able to be focused but not overly stimulated, because there's no stimulatory property in the RG3. There's no caffeine. There's no traditional sort of like nootropic sort of horse blinder focus. You're just more present. Your brain's able to work the way it's supposed to. And I like to say it's like a fire extinguisher to a bonfire in your brain. And there's a lot of neuroinflammation in today's world, from stress to environmental burden, from diet. There's all sorts of things that are, playing into that, with brain, which creates brain fog and, all this host of symptoms that people deal with on a daily basis. And the RG3 or Synapsin was the first raw material that we worked with in the LipoTab technology, because we knew this one was going to be our hero product, and there's no competitors to it on the market. And it just so happened to work perfectly. The compound, the molecule worked perfectly in the technology, and now we're able to deliver this same thing that was in a nasal spray, and now we're able to make it accessible to everybody, because you don't have to have a prescription for it. And, it really has a big impact for a wide variety of
I'm definitely liking
use
it
cases.
From a cognitive function standpoint. I'll usually take a couple in the morning on an empty stomach, especially when I want to get like the most amount of work. Like I already had one podcast. I was interviewed earlier today. I'm interviewing you now. I have shooting videos this afternoon, and kind of just want to be sharp and switched on. And I'm definitely noticing a bit of a difference there. So yeah, great products, really interesting and cool technology. So if we zoom out from sort of the supplement scope for a second and really look at the relevance to nutrition and lifestyle factors, like obviously these are still just supplements, and they're not going to take the place, and preach about this all of the time. We say the same thing about hormones and peptides and all of this conversation, and my audience knows full well. But if we're talking about, just the overall nutrition and lifestyle standpoint, you being someone who's grown up in this world and you've seen the impact that supplements can make, but you've obviously studied health and fitness and now it's career. What would you say to those listening around kind of the relevance and importance and how to think about supplementation with respect to the other foundational pillars?
So get asked this a lot, just because we play in all those different realms, from peptides, hormones, supplements, diet. Supplements are a tool in the toolbox. And a lot of times, if you're not fixing those foundational issues, whether it's sleep, eating the right way, training on a consistent basis, you're not going to get as much out of the supplements as you should if you were doing it with bad eating habits, bad sleep, not training consistently. They're not a one pill fixes all sort of thing. And that's where I think people are like, oh, I can just take a supplement for it. That's not really the case. There's a lot of things that we're seeing in the science coming out now, how important training is for mental health and what it affects, the things that it affects outside of just actually how you look, how you feel. There's a direct impact on gut health. If you train too hard, you're going to disrupt your gut microbiome, and you're also going to, but at the same time, it has a good impact on your mental health. And then diet, obviously with my mom being a dietitian, that was always core in what we do, eating the right way. But it's hard in today's world, because I don't think you're able to actually eat enough food to actually satisfy what your biochemistry needs. So you can eat as much, fiber and and, veggies and high nutrient dense food, but we still see cracks in the blood work. We still see the need for supplementation in the blood work. But I think obviously food first is always the important way to go, making sure your sleep is dialed in, making sure you're training. Once you get all of those things dialed in, then you can take that next step and look at your blood work and see where I may need to add some supplements to fix where I'm metabolically broken. If am I stuck, am I feeling just off all the time? And that's a lot of times that off feeling is a key indicator that you probably should get some blood work done and get to the root of why you're like, I'm eating good, I'm training good, I sleep okay, like if I still feel off, then you probably should look to get some blood work done and then see where these other tools can fit in to your mission and into your story.
It's really interesting sort of dynamic around nutrition and supplementation and peak performance and health optimization kind of world that we're living in, because at the end of the day, and you studied this and I study this, and I'm actually teaching this at university now with a muscle physiology class that I'm teaching, and it's brought everything back to me around the importance of cellular health and how these mechanisms actually are meant to work, how nutrients support enzymes and the absorption of minerals and absorption of carbohydrate, and where they and how they cross and how we utilize energy and ATP. And it really is this complex process that requires so much nutrition. And at the end of the day, it requires this complexity of cellular health, to the degree that, and my point in breaking all of this down is really to express to those listening, is that we have all this research around the way that the body's supposed to work. And generally the research, it might be on college grad school students like, you and I probably both did, maybe a seemingly healthy population, maybe it's on endurance athletes on the rate of carbohydrate use and fatty acid metabolism. But when you zoom out and you start to look at individuals who are metabolically deranged, these principles and these research studies and the way things should work don't work like that anymore, to the degree that it becomes excessively important, even more important for us to be able to arbitrage nutrition and supplementation to be able to drive the actual nutrients that we need across the cell membrane to be utilized effectively in everything that I just talked about: energy production pathways, inflammatory response, cognitive function, immune support, right? The list goes on. And I think that is what I'm trying to glean to our audience around. We can't just make these dogmatic, zealotous statements that, we scroll through around. You just need to eat clean, or just eat organic, or eat sustainable, or eat carnivore, or you don't need to eat vegetables, or blah 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 blah. Like, it's incredibly nuanced and complex, and as with everything, it depends on a lot of factors. But the more metabolically deranged, so basically the sicker you are, the fatter you are, the more in line you are with the standard American diet, the more support you're going to need. And I think that that's the way that I think about things, to the degree that that's also where, we want to look at targeted supplementation as the icing on the cake for everything around training and nutrition.
Yeah, we see that all the time, is you have to be targeted with it. These blanket statements that this is going to fix, like you said, these zealotous sort of blanket statements for carnivore and all these things, it is much more complex than that. And you have to be extremely targeted, especially with the supplementation, to look exactly at where you are metabolically deranged or metabolically broken. And that is where you need to target, because a lot of the times, like in my dad's metabolic code approach, it's everything's in the 5 different triads. If you attack, the top thing that you're struggling with, a lot of the times those other systems will follow suit and help, and get better. But don't get me wrong, you do have to work on multiple systems at a time. But if you find that one thing, a lot of the times the other systems will come with it, and you'll start to feel a lot better. And I think, I love your approach. That's exactly how we approach things. Is there are no one size fit all. And we've seen that, or at least my dad has seen that in practice for 40 years. It's like we value the research and we look at it and we look at mechanisms of action and we look at all these things because it's very, very important to understand what research is showing, but it also is really important to understand what's actually happening in reality, like what is actually going on. And I can tell you that we get cases on a daily, weekly basis that there's no research study that can show that this person has all these things going on. There's not a research study out there that has that person with all those various things going on. So it's a really fine balance of, staying rooted in research, but also, what's actually working and what's actually going on in reality. Because we both play in both sides of that, right? You were involved in research. I was involved in research. We've seen, everything I had to do in grad school is all based off research, so, but it's a delicate balance. It really is a delicate balance. And, in today's world, I'm just going to red light, or I'm just going to cold plunge, or I'm just going to sauna, or I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go to step 99 before I even have step 1 and 2 figured out first, Those are good tools like red light, sauna, cold plunge out. It's all good, but that's not what you need to do first. Like that's not number 1 on your list. Like we have guys that do all that and these biohackers and they're driving their mitochondria hard all the time. But there has to be balance. The body is based off homeostasis and balance. When the body is functioning the best way, you can shift. Being able to shift from, being pushed and then under pushed. How do you get back to balance? And that's where we find that people are the most healthy, is when they're in that balanced state or in homeostasis with their biochemistry. And a lot of times these interventions are actually pushing people too hard and driving that biochemistry out of whack. And we have people that think they're healthy, but they still come in with glucoses at 98 and GFRs in the tank and all these things that are just bad in blood work. But it's like, oh, I'm doing my methylene blue. I'm doing my this, I'm doing my that, I'm doing that. And it's like, there's some other things I think you got to work on first.
I was just going to say biochemistry at the end of the day, foundationally, is like, you need to have an understanding, like not our listeners, but you and I as practitioners and clinicians, if you will, or working with clinicians in our direct network. And obviously the people that are creating these products like you guys, being rooted in actual biochemistry. And geez, man, it's very clear from the quality of products and the ingredients. And, this probably well better than I do, but people are just producing products. They don't have the first clue around biochemically how this is actually working. Right. So, and then they're marketing, a creatine gummy and as if it's a panacea. It's like, dude, you just ordering creatine gummies because your latest influencer told you to, that it's going to help all these things. Yet, we're all metabolically deranged. Maybe you're not moving enough. You're not even strength training. Like, right. It's pissing in the wind. And so,
yeah. And they did a study on those great creatine gummies too. And it was like 8 out of 10 of the top brands came out with less than a gram of creatine in them. Some of them had no creatine in them. So, I mean, it's like you said, people are just producing to produce because we live in a mass consumer world. People just consume on a daily basis. And people are going to try and capitalize on that and create things that may not have your best interest at heart. And that's where we take a lot of pride, like you said, the ingredients that we use, trying to actually push the needle on delivery technology. How I haven't really seen a massive, troches have been around for forever in the pharmaceutical side. I haven't really seen a amazing supplement innovation in the last, 10 years. And I can say that because I've been a consumer. I'm the ultimate supplement consumer. I know what everybody's doing. Yeah, exactly. So it's like when you have somebody that's rooted with, we want the best for the person. We have experience on the performance side and in the practitioner clinical side, and 40 years of let's say supplement formulation experience with my dad and seeing everything on the sun. I'm like, oh, Dad, did you see this? And he's like, yeah, I remember when that came out in 1982. And I'm like, oh, it's funny what's old comes back around. And he was writing monographs on cordyceps for Rite Aid and CVS in the early 90s and 80s. And now
Exactly.
adaptogen coffee, is like the new thing. And which a lot of times I don't think
That's
tastes
good.
that good. And it's kind of counterintuitive when you really think about it. But the funny thing is like people just sprinkle a thing of this or a thing of that, or they just want to put all these branded trademarked ingredients in there and say, hey, look at this. We have all these trademarked ingredients. We have all these things, but none of the doses are the right doses. And, there's a lot of, holes you can poke in a lot of products. And I think where we have an advantage is with my dad formulating, because he understands, if you're familiar with him, he understands probably biochemistry better than 99% of the United States. And I would say he's one of the, best practitioners in the country on biochemistry and really understanding, how the body is really supposed to work. And we are able to formulate things on a systemic level and really look at the biochemistry. It's like, okay, what is this actually impacting and what system does it impact? And hey, do we need a supportive nutrient for the secondary effect of it in another system? So I think we're able to formulate on a systems approach better than anybody else in the country, which, hasn't been applied too much yet to the LPT, because a lot of our products are single ingredient and are very, very effective when you're actually able to get them absorbed. So the curcumin, the glutathione, our glutathione, I'll put up there with any glutathione on the market, even injectable, even intravenous. I will say we get similar results with our glutathione. And, when you're actually able to absorb stuff, you don't need to put all these extra products or all these extra raw material in there with it. But yeah, I think that's just gives a little bit of context on how we do things.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
Coming up on
I
time,
love talking about this stuff, obviously, but I'm just trying to like really, give the big picture around the importance of understanding this stuff. And I don't expect general population or just the everyday listener here to be able to genuinely understand, the biochemistry and what they should be looking for in products. And that's where you're going to have to place your trust in people like us, and which I'm grateful that, hopefully that's me and you're listening to this episode. And, I'm pointing you in the right direction around products that I know, I personally use and trust and provide to my clientele and to my family and what have you. But I think just one question, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here, is with respect to how people are thinking about supplementation beyond kind of the foundational stuff. And I've done other episodes on foundational products, whether it's just, protein powders or electrolytes or fish oil or magnesium or vitamin D. It's like, it's pretty straightforward, at least I think in the information that I've provided. But when we're thinking about some of this targeted technology, obviously this is high quality technology. It's an investment in terms of, the cost of buying these products. How should people be thinking about it? Where would be a logical place to start for someone that's considering starting to utilize some of your products?
Like you said, we do have our prices are premium because we have premium ingredients. We have premium delivery system. We also have premium third-party testing. So we get all of our raw material tested on our own, and then we also do third-party analysis, and then we send it out to BSCG, certified drug-free, and they screen for 500 different compounds, 310 banned substances, and then 200 pharmaceutical compounds that should not be in your dietary supplements. So we're screening multiple times throughout the entire process for adulterants. So, and that costs money. So therefore the price of our products go up a little bit. But I like to say our products are the best return on your investment, because you're actually going to notice them and you're actually going to see yourself feel different. And if you are doing blood work, you're going to see your blood work change for the better. Like I said, the process of just how things are produced is next level. And that's really, you're paying for the expertise from who we have involved with our board and our founder. You're paying for the quality ingredient. You're paying for the testing. And then you're also paying for the support of information that we provide on our website via podcasts and newsletters and blog posts that we have. And we have a host of information on there that you can look to go deeper into our products. We post our certificates that our products pass the third-party certification. And we also have our fact sheets and our monographs of where you can see where all the research is on the raw material and all these things. Like, you're paying for a comprehensive solution. You're not paying for just something that you see on TikTok Shop, which there are some good stuff
Yeah.
on there, but unless you're in the space, you don't know how to
Well,
differentiate the
like you
good from
said,
the
I
bad.
think it's just knowing that you're taking a product that's actually going to work. Because otherwise, we genuinely just don't know. You're taking stuff, you don't actually know if it's working or not. And you're probably already investing into supplementation. But this is beyond, this is sort of like the way that I would look at it and the way that I utilize these products with my clientele are really kind of looking at like what's the low hanging fruit of the things that we're trying to work on, whether it's immune system support, whether it's blood sugar regulation, whether it's cognitive focus, whether it's joint health. And oftentimes we'll just kind of cycle through these things. It depends on the person's budget and how much they want to tackle at once, in conjunction with obviously the nutrition and lifestyle and training factors that are paramount regardless of what you're supplementing with. So that's what I would encourage for people, is like to kind of determine like what's the priority for them. Is it gut health? Is it focus? Is
Yep.
it sleep quality? Is it immune support? Is it joint inflammation? And start there and start to test things out. I'm going to throw a link to the products and a discount code in the show notes below for those of you listening that you can take advantage of. And then what am I missing, Christian? Anything that you would add?
I don't think you're missing anything. I think the way you're doing things is spot on. And that's how we also are trying to educate, is start with your goals, start with the low hanging fruit, maybe grab one product at a time, see how you like it. Like I said, I think your approach to it is perfect. And that's exactly how we are trying to educate our practitioners or our coaches on how to utilize these products with their clinics, or in their clinics or in their gyms, wherever it may be. And then also trying to convey the same teaching to our consumers as well, is, hey, how is this going to impact you on a daily basis? Why should you spend the $100 on the cognitive support product? What should you expect? Things like that. So I think, you hit the nail on the head with everything. And, there was a few products that we didn't get to touch on, but we have so
Honestly,
much
dude, I'm just
information
like
on them on the
I'm
website.
literally looking at the list right
There's,
now and I'm like, you're GLUT4.
yeah,
I want to talk through that. And just the fact that you called it GLUT4 tells me, that you understand biochemistry and glycogen absorption. But for the listener here, again, I would kind of reframe the mindset around supplementation and sort of the investment therein, is understanding like what's your time worth, what's your energy worth, to the degree that you're spending this money anyways, right? You're going to go out, shit, I can barely take my kids out, to a family dinner for under like $120 for something decent, right? So maybe we eat at home one more night
yep,
per week. I'm not, getting drinks at the bars. Like, you're making trade-offs, and we talk about these trade-offs all of the time in our nutrition coaching practice. So it's just considering like where are some of the trade-offs that we make for potentially adding products that we know are going to add a significant amount of value, productivity, and to our lifestyle. For me, it's like, hey, if I can show up and I can have a great conversation with you, the podcast that I had earlier today, I'm still switched on and firing. I've got 3 hours of videos I'm going to crank out this afternoon. That's extremely valuable time for me. That's worth,
yep.
well, exponentially more than paying $100 or $70 for, a cognitive product. And that's the way that I think about things. And I know that's the way the high performers I work with think about things too.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That hit the nail on the head with everything. And the Synapsin is, like you said, it's a productivity hack. I like to say it's a longevity compound for the brain. So that one's really interesting. And I think, like you said, these trade-offs, that's a huge part of it. And I challenge people to really look at what they're doing and be like, do I really need all of this? Do I really need 50 products? Do I really need 20? Do I, really take a look at the supplements that you are taking and dive into the quality of them as well. As like, am I really getting something out of this $30,
What about a
vitamin D, or which you
$100
probably,
greens, quote unquote, comprehensive greens
yeah, or
supplement?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So like really take a look at what you're doing. like really be critical of it. I think that's one thing where people just like to add and not really evaluate the full picture of what they're trying to achieve. People come in all the time with like a bag of 50 things that they're doing, and their biochemistry still sucks. It's like, all right, let's take a look and see what is actually helping and what is not doing anything that you're wasting money on.
Here's what I'll encourage for those of you
honest.
listening that might be interested in sort of getting an audit of your supplement routine. Just email me. I'm happy to take a look and I'll send you video feedback. Just email me, ben@bodysystems.com. Send me a list of supplementation, what you're working on, what you're struggling with, and I'll respond back and give you some feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly for what it's worth, or I'll point you in the right direction in terms of like, you know what, we need more information. Do you have any updated blood work and what have you? So let's do that. Christian, where can people find out more about you, follow you?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram's Christian LaValle 5, and then obviously you can find us at Metabolic_Elite, and our website is www.metabolicelite.co. And you can get a ton of information from those three locations. Also, if you want to follow my father, the real Jim LaValle, on Instagram, he posts a ton of amazing information on integrative medicine, peptides, diet, supplementation, lifestyle, all that stuff. So
appreciate you.
Those are the
appreciate
spots.
You guys being at the cutting edge always, which is what I pride myself on trying to stay integrated with, and part of how we're connected because of me, starting to study with Charles Poliquin 20 years ago. Now, rest in peace, and excited, man, for the future. Excited to continue to learn from you guys. Looking forward to some continuing education. I'll keep my eye on the continuing education list or events because I definitely intend to come. And then for all of those of you listening, if you want to try out some of the products, just grab the link down in the show notes. I think with a 10 or 15% discount code. So take advantage of that. And appreciate you, brother.
No, thank you so much, Ben. Really appreciate you having me
on.
Yep. Thanks.